Remember falling in love for the first time? The feeling I have for Elden Ring was similar to the feelings I had when I laid my eyes on her for the first time. Even though she and I went our separate ways and will never see each other again, that feeling is a feeling I'll treasure forever deep inside my soul. But when it comes to Elden Ring, the ecstasy is so real that I ended up beating the game 100 times. Ladies and gentlemen, this right here is not just a video.
It's an experience.
Aesthetics to me is everything. When you're able to create a completely unique stylistic world in such a way that nobody else can, then best believe I'm gonna engage myself in every single way possible. That's how I'm at New Game Plus 99. And trust me when I say this, getting to this point required me to put my blood, sweat, and tears into this game. I haven't seen my family in 6 years. Whoever the hell those people are. It's now time to face my fears and complete Elden Ring on New Game Plus 100. I've received a small loan of 120 million runes that I can lose at any moment, and if I do, I will delete this character. This will be my last playthrough, so it all comes down to whether I kill Elden Beast and live or lose all my runes and die. Now just the sheer thought of that scares the black out of me. I have white privilege now. Now, how easy is it to lose 100 million runes, you might ask? Well, the answer is yes. There is literally no room for error on this run. The beginning of this journey was suffering at its peak. The thought of reaching New Game Plus 100 was extremely daunting, but at New Game Plus 50, I discovered a place outside reality, which is
in my mind palace.
I want to go there. Inside your mind.
I sit alone in my mind palace whenever I'm faced with a challenge that's too much for me to deal with. My body was suffering in Elden Ring, facing boss after boss after boss. And before I knew it, I was here, knocking at the door of New Game Plus 100. Regardless of whether I die or not, this is my last playthrough, the end. The time had come to complete the cycle and gather every remembrance on New Game Plus 100.
Memento Mori. Death is inevitable. New Game Plus 100.
Right, from the beginning, nothing can prepare you for what I'm about to say, so strap on in. This is gonna be a long one. Right from the beginning of this run, I thought that somebody was trying to contact me while I played through New Game Plus 100, but here's the confusing part. The person trying to contact me was somebody that's ahead of my time, someone in the future. How do I know this? Well, let me explain. After I started New Game Plus 100, I decided to go to the Church of Elden. When I got there, I saw a message that looked off. It read, "Be wary of enemy likely behind." What? And confused as I was, I looked behind me. Huh? How did he know that I would get invaded? And to make matters even more strange, the invader didn't even move. All he did was stand there, menacingly. Is this some sort of technique I've never seen before? Doesn't matter. I took care of him like he was my son and I came back from the bar. This is the first time I got invaded while I was here. Is this what comes with being at New Game Plus 100? Not even just that. Who is trying to contact me? And how are these messages reaching the past? Despite me having all these questions, I kept moving because I had no other choice to. I met Melina for the 100th time and quite frankly the last time.
But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
What the hell? Not gonna lie, getting told I get no bitches really never gets old. She offered to become my maiden for the very last time.
I can play the role of maiden.
Thanks Melina, very cool. It was now time to go to Margit. Running through Limgrave took me back to the first time I played this game. It was like moving in a new city that you've never been in before, with so much to explore, but except everybody in that city fucking hates you and wants to kill you. For some dumb reason. I made my way to Margit, and once I was there, it was time to get to work. When I first fought Margit, I felt like a victim, but believe me when I say this, I am no longer the victim. I am him. For the 100th time, I faded Margit, and I ended him for the very last time. After I beat Margit, I went back to the Church of Ella to see if I'd been contacted, and indeed I was. The message read, "Misfortune ahead, likely recklessness." What? So anyways, next up was Godric. I spoke to Travis Scott and he told me that I needed to get some new Yeezys since mine were fake. Why are you lying, Travis? And after he told me that, he opened up the gate to Stormvale Castle. Traversing this area is gonna be like a walk in the park. Seriously, just watch how I walk. Okay, so here's the situation. I've dropped 120 million runes and I have to go through an army to get them back without dying. This by far was my biggest challenge. I took a deep breath and I moved up like my life depended on it. Because it did. My nerves were killing me, but I trained for this my whole life. And I drank a full cup of McDonald's Sprite, so best believe my energy was through the roof, and Lord behold. Okay, just to preface this, I nearly had a stroke at this point. You seeing this, Squidward's house? I managed to acquire all my runes and get the grace as well. When I tell you I was shitting bricks, I quite literally did. I even dropped my phone in the McDonald's Sprite and it started charging. The person sending these messages to the past must be some sort of god with powers that transcends all human comprehension. Or it could just be some random dude who got lucky. Now, time for Godric. Godric made one crucial mistake whilst we fought. He forgot that for this fight, I'm the boss and he's the fool. I used to struggle on Godric. Now Godric struggles on me. He took a break to scream his lungs out. And after that, he attacked his dragon. And even though he had his dragon, I still gave him an ass whooping. Nothing is stopping me. I beat this game 99 times. I didn't come this far just to come this far and struggle. No way in hell. Ladies and gentlemen,
The lake facing cliffs.
this is my favorite gray spot where I come to just relax. Everybody should have that one spot where everything comes together to create the perfect vibe. I'm talking pretty landscapes, the right people, the right food, and finishing off with the right music. And that's when you have a villa for the vibe. And in this game, this gray spot is what it does. But this time, something happened that I could never predicted. I was invaded by somebody called Tomoe Gosen, who was really different from all the other invaders I've faced. She didn't attack but dodged all my moves. It's like she knew all my moves before I could even make them. I knew I was fighting a losing battle until she did something I would never expect. Who was she? How did she find her way into my game? And most importantly, how did she know all my moves before I even made them? Down the line, this will all make sense, but for now, we gotta move on. It's now off to Ryo Lucario to face the most beautiful boss in the game. I ran through everything Ryo Lucario threw at me, and before I knew it, I made it to Renala. As soon as I took out her kids who had no ankles for some odd reason, I managed to one-shot Renala. By the way, my blade is bisexual, everyone gets it. There's no such thing as pretty privilege in the lands between. Second phase was nothing to me, that's because I've done this song and dance 99 times. She summoned all her ancestors, and even though she did, I still managed to deal with her the right way. Now that I finished, I actually chilled and spoke to her for a bit. I spoke to her about the girl I fumbled back in high school, and afterwards I had gone back to the Church of Ella, and there was a message there waiting for me, and it read, "Seek stars, loyalty required ahead." I thought about it for a minute, but then it hit me. The princess that triggers the Age of Stars. I need to find her. I left to find the princess like Chris Pratt did in the Mario movie. And as I left, I never thought that would be the last message I get. I embarked on a journey to find the demigod herself, Lunar Princess Rani. I got to a tower and I found her. We spoke for a bit.
Wilt thou enter into my service?
I decided to serve her because she will bring upon the age of stars, and because she's bad as hell. Don't tell Melina. Right, so this is where things get a little bit more confusing here, but stay with me. Right after speaking with Ronnie, a red marker appeared on the map which shows the entry to Nokron, which doesn't make sense since Nokron is supposed to open up after you beat Radahn, and last time I checked, Radahn is still alive. And he still had no feet. What the hell? How could this be possible? I traveled to the red marker and while there, I couldn't find the entry, but this area was not normal at all. I saw a figure standing in the distance. After that happened, I was suddenly transported to a place in which I've never been before. And it wasn't long until I saw her. Although she was silent, I tried to make contact, but before I could, I was transported back to the lake-facing cliffs. Making sense of everything was indeed tough, but then I remembered.
Don't try to understand what you can't change. Feel it.
New Game Plus 100 was really an interesting playthrough in regards to what I had to research. Looking back in time, Lady Tomoe Gozen was the first female samurai and was the master of techniques that some came to realize today as fearsome. She used these techniques to help take over the Yoshinaka clan, which took over Kyoto back in the 12th century through fighting the Taira clan. But by the way she fought, it was theorized that she had a technique that only she knew about. She supposedly fought the battle, lost, traveled back in time through transcendental meditation, and battled again, but this time having full knowledge of her enemy tactics, making use of a temporal pincer maneuver. I know, big words, but here's a simple way of saying it. She basically fought the battle with cheat engine installed. Now, I feel on New Game Plus 100 she managed to find a way into the lands between through bending time. Not much can be confirmed, but until I can confirm, I'll have to face what's in front of me. It was now time to deal with the boss, with no ankles, but for me to do that, I had to travel to the worst place I've ever been to, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Brazil. I traversed Brazil and I made it to the portal that took me to Radahn. I took a page out of Ronaldo's book and I summoned everybody I knew. Radahn and I fought only 5 times, so this fight wasn't as familiar as the main bosses. We were all doing well until Radahn took inspiration from my dad and straight up left. He came harder than ever. Pause. And once he landed, we got back to fighting. Remember, I'm the boss here. I then proceeded to do a move that I didn't even know I could do and decimated Radahn. I hope that he reunites in the afterlife with his ankles. Right after fighting Radahn, a cutscene played, and if I'm being honest, I haven't seen this cutscene in a while, and while it played, I felt the feeling of
ecstasy. Through this creation, I want people to be healed and to be touched with the consciousness, and that consciousness would make them realize that what we are living on the surface is just a wee bit of the truth.
I ventured to Nokron to find Ronnie's blade, and once I was here, I felt everything at once. I tried not to understand it and felt it, and once I saw it, the stars all hit me at once. I had to look for Ronnie's blade to help aid her on her journey, and once I found it in a chest, I had to make my way back to her. I delivered the weapon back to Ronnie, and she expressed her gratitude.
My thanks. Finally all the pieces are in place. Soon must I begin my journey. Upon the dark path only I may tread.
Now that we're on her good side, it was time to continue our quest to become the Elden Lord on New Game Plus 100. I continued to travel the path of the Elden Lord, and this time it was time to enter my favorite area of the entire game, the capital. Making my way to the capital always seemed like a privilege to me since it had the most beautiful architecture. The feeling I received while traversing this beautiful landscape and exploring the capital was just a feeling that I never thought I needed. And after I explored the capital, I had to go through some bad stuff. Bad stuff being that Melina had to abandon me for good this time. During my past 99 playthroughs, Melina has served me well. I let her go from the hell I was keeping her in, but this will not be the last time you see her.
I shall depart to ascertain the purpose I was given. Farewell.
Right, see this fool? I always mess up the timing with these damn arrows, but not today. Today I'll be on time because this is my 100th time I climbed the almighty dragon corpse of Grand Sex, and as I did, I continued to admire the Lindar capital, and before I knew it, I was at Morgoth's door. I made my way to the door, and as I got there, surprise surprise, it was Melina, and she was willing to help us fight Morgoth. I'm not one to use summons, but then you see Melina has a very special place in my heart, so screw it, we're gonna let her in, and we're gonna let Melina cook. Now that she's here, I can finally end Morgoth for good. Remember, I fought Morgoth twice on every playthrough, at the beginning and in the capital, so technically this is my 200th and final time fighting him. The amount of times I've had to look at his syphilis having ass is insane, and as he fought, I could tell that this man has no father figure in his life. Melina and I gave him hell. And for some dumb reason, he ended up pooping all over the damn floor. We continued to execute Morgoth, and like that, I beat Morgoth for the 200th time as well as the final time. Melina and I gave him the stink eye before she left. Thanks Melina, see you soon. Right, so afterwards I spoke to him and I asked him how he felt about his loss. And I don't think he felt good. And right there and then, out of nowhere, it hit me. I was technically making use of time travel myself, going through time, losing and coming back with full knowledge of my opponent's moves. I've fought this fight over 100 times, and I've come from a time where I struggled into a time where I'm fully aware of all my opponent's moves. It's no wonder Lady Tomoe would take interest in my tactics. After making that realization, I tried to access the tree, and get this, I couldn't access the tree for the 100th time. Could you believe that? Pretends to be shocked. I sat and spoke to Melina, and she offered to go on one last adventure to the mountaintops, and she then handed me a medallion. Before doing so, I went back to the Church of Ele, and surprisingly, there was no message. I looked up and down, but I couldn't find anything. I even waited to see if I'll get invaded, but nothing. I guess my future guardians forgot about me. Nevertheless, I continued my journey on New Game Plus 100. I made it to the Grand Lift, and I then used the medallion that Melina had given us to get to the mountaintops of the giants. Traversing this area was a nightmare. Why? Well, I was crossing this bridge, and while doing so, I'm gonna be straight up with you, I was on my phone on Instagram looking at a bunch of models. I'm a boy, I'ma be real, but once I did that, this happened.
Man, I'm dead.
With my horse dead, I had to make a run for it. I can't lose my bruh. Alright, so here's the situation. I have to recover my runes without dying, because if I do, then it's all over. Doing this had my heart racing, but when the time came, I managed to recover my belongings, and once I did, I continued to traverse the mountaintops and get the grace. And I continued to make my way through the mountaintops of the giants, and as I did so, I witnessed a fight between a giant and a bird. My money is on the giant. Then from there, I ended up at the biggest boss in the game, the fire giant. Something was off while fighting the fire giant. You already know that I'm very skilled at this game, but despite the fact that I struggled a lot less, I started to realize that I'm not having fun. Of course the fire giant went into his second phase. As he did that, I took care of him the right way because, you know, I'm him. But then after I defeated the fire giant, something was really off because I felt something sour sit within me. I felt zero satisfaction after beating the fire giant. I struggled more to understand this than I did the fight. Regardless of how I felt, I kept going and made it to the grace at the peak of the mountain. I had to speak with Melina for that one moment.
Are you prepared to commit a cardinal sin?
I told her to wait because I feel like I need to do something just to clear up this feeling.
Very well. Tell me when you are fully prepared.
So I told her to wait and I decided to go on one more adventure before I reached the endgame. It was time for a boss rush. I traveled to Nokron to fight the regal ancestor spirit, arguably the easiest remembrance boss, and once I did, I had to make my way to Moog to defeat him as well. Moog was a very sweaty boy, but once I got the best of him, it was time to get to Rykard. Rykard is my favorite remembrance boss ever made in this damn game. Why did I say ever made? This one had to be one of my favorites, but despite me defeating Rykard, Regal, and Moog, I still felt some sort of void in me. And the only way I could explain it is just a feeling of emptiness. I figured I had to do more in order to not feel this way. I had gone back to Ronnie's Rise, and as I got there, I found nobody there. It was time to go on one final journey before going to the endgame. During this cutscene, a boss fell from the cosmos, and this boss is what stands between me and the princess I need to rescue. I traversed Nokstella, the city of stars, and as I got through Nokstella, I reached the lake of rot, and I swam through that hole like it was nothing. Once I did that, I made it to the coffin. Feeling exhausted, I rested in the coffin, but before I could even get out, the coffin had dropped off the waterfall. And right there and then, I was knocking at the door of Estelle, the natural born void. Estelle, be it she has no back for some reason, like where's her spine? Even though she got no back, I have to say, she's one of the most beautiful boss fights I've had to do in this game, and although her attacks were very... Her or him? Is Estelle a dude or a girl? Please don't cancel me. Okay, so I fought Estelle, and once I did, I got the best of him or her, I don't fucking know. And after I did, I had to make my way to Luna Princess Ronnie for the last time. I got to the altar after beating Estelle, and once I did, I had to make my way to Ronnie. It was only a matter of time before I found her, and she was in a very terrible state. I made my way to Ronnie to help her to get back to her usual self. She expressed herself and she was very appreciative.
I am pleased, however. Thou art a fitting choice.
I've come this far into New Game Plus 100 and I overcame so many struggles to become the person who I've always wanted to be, and trust me when I say this, I feel so empty. I was always told that the beauty is in the struggle and the ugly was in the success. I never really understood that till now. I thought I would have felt like I've achieved something great once I reached New Game Plus 100, but in all honesty, I don't feel anything. I grew tired of feeling this way and I traveled back to Melina and felt like now was the right time to finish the journey. It was now time to let go of Melina for the last time and begin the journey to the end.
Thank you for guiding me here. Goodbye.
I am here to take care of two bosses, Dragon Plaza Dusax and Malekith, and on my way to Dragon Plaza Dusax, I found a set of armor and I decided to change into it to at least feel something, but unfortunately I still feel the same. I just have the drip drip. I found a place for me to rest, and once I did, the arena formed itself around me, and right as it formed, I realized that it was time, that Plaza Dusax and I were to battle. After I woke up in this new environment, I set my eyes on the two-headed dragon, and right there and then, I was ready. I have come from far to beat this dragon. I commenced battle and this dragon was not going down easily. He commands lightning at will, and not only that, he disappears whenever he wants to. And if you think that was it, think again. He breathes golden fire from his mouth that turns into a golden beam of light. Now that's when I realized that, god damn, I'm getting too old for this shit. This dragon forgot who he was fighting. I'm him. I got to New Game Plus 100. No matter what you bring at me, I'm going to overcome it. I took him out, and right after that I ran all the way to Malekith to leave this area. Malekith is one of those bosses which I can rightfully say, he's got that dog in him. Literally, fighting Malekith was like washing a dog that's on cocaine and steroids at the same time. He by far is the hardest boss I've had to duel. It took a lot of skill to get to this point. We did the tango, and just guess, can you just guess who won? Of course I did. Malekith didn't go down without a fight, so I gave him one for the 100th time. And just like that, something happened. It was time to finish this journey for the very last time. I then realized that what was previously my favorite area had been turned to ash that sat below my feet. It was time to fight the first Elden Lord, but before doing so, I had to take care of one more dragon and the hardest boss in the entire game, Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. Right, now that we've taken care of that, it was time for the dragon. Let's Dragon Fortisax has the power of agility, unlike Placidusax, and he used lightning powers to try to massacre me. This battle was heard across the lands between, but best believe, even though Fortisax was using hacks, I still came up on top, baby. There's no stopping me. Bruh. The first Elden Lord finally made his appearance, and of course I dunked on him. I became Elden Lord 99 times. This battle was not fair. This battle was like a hydrogen bomb versus a coughing baby. And of course I'm the bomb. Godfrey struggled so much that he manifested Harlow, and despite Harlow making his appearance, that didn't do anything. I put him to sleep like the coughing baby he was. I'm finally here, and I still have my 100 million runes. Radagon, in all honesty, was light work. I'm running on momentum, so I felt the adrenaline work its way through my veins. Radagon didn't stand a chance at all. He tried everything he had, but he unfortunately came up short. I took him down, and after that, it was time to finish this.
It was then Kwon realized that to fight the god, he himself had to become one.
The final boss had finally made his appearance, the god himself, Elden Beast. I've been training for this my whole life, to the point where I feel that this is no longer a god facing a tarnished, but rather a god facing another god. New Game Plus 100 got me to god level, and I used all my remaining energy to take out Elden Beast. And as I stood before Elden Beast right there for the last time, I felt that there's only one last thing I had to do. I did it. I beat Elden Ring on New Game Plus 100, but I have one remembrance left, and unfortunately, I ran out of momentum and I felt myself crashing into a pit of existential dread. I couldn't become Elden Lord without getting Melania's remembrance, so instead I sat on the beach for a few hours, contemplating everything I've done. I made my way back to the Church of LA, and while there I saw a red sign, and while approaching that sign I was taken back to the beach side in which Lady Tomoe resided. It was now time to end Lady Tomoe for good, but the thing is with Lady Tomoe is that she had been gifted the ability of foresight, and since she has that, she's going to know every move I'm gonna make, so really I'm fighting a losing battle. But the thing is, I have nothing else to live for, so I might as well just do it. But as I made my way to Lady Tomoe, she did something that I would never expect her to do. After witnessing what just happened, I ended up back in the arena with Elden Beast. But here's the thing, Elden Beast wasn't attacking me, but he was attacking somebody else. Something about what he just did seems very familiar. I blinked and I was back in Malekith's arena, but same story. Malekith wasn't fighting me, he was fighting somebody else. I traveled backwards through time watching this person chase something that wasn't worth it. I spectated every single boss fight from Elden Beast all the way back to Margit, and there's something very familiar about this person's technique. I proceeded to go to the Church of Elden to write down messages, hoping he would find it. I decided that I would help whoever finds these messages. Every now and then I would go back to the church to write down the message, to guide the souls of the past. I went back to the church this one time and I found a red summon sign. I approached it, but then I didn't make it because I was transported to a different world. And as I was transported, I realized that I was right before him and I was tasked with killing him, but all I could do was just stare because I envied the ambition of this person to a point where I couldn't even do anything. Before I knew it, my story had come to an end.
Memento mori. Death is inevitable.
Loneliness is everywhere in this world in which we live in, and I wonder, oh, why this ever